Well, Christina, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. So far, so good.
Well, good. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'm just going to introduce you to the audience. And I can see in your background, you have a copy of your book,
Yeah.
your very excellent book. It's such a good read. So you have so many facets to your story and to your life. It's sort of hard to know where to start, but I think I'm going to stay with the format that seems with the theme of my summit, which is trauma to triumph. And um, I just start with the story because I want my audience to know that there is life after the trauma.
Sure.
And it's inspiring to hear the journeys of the people who have come out on the other side. And you have a very, very successful story, coming from one of the most horrific abuse stories that I've heard. And so thank you for joining us. So let's start with your story.
Sure. Like that's a loaded question, Peggy.
Well, I know. It's a lot to unpack, but you
It
start where you
is.
want to start.
It
And
is.
it's a very expansive story, but sometimes I just don't like to just jump in with questions because I don't ever know where a person really is ready. But my guests have been like, oh, I put it out there and I'm an open book. So
Yeah. Okay.
well, let me ask you this. No, you go ahead. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. So
Okay.
the reason why I titled it Every 9 Minutes is because in the US, there is a case of child abuse reported every 9 minutes. And when I read that, I thought to myself, holy cow, if anybody's like me, I think the majority of people are like me, is you spend your whole life telling nobody, never mind reporting it. So it's more hidden. So if those statistics are that bad, then this is obviously a real issue. One child is a real issue, never mind what we deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of what gave me the courage to sit down and say, well, you know what, it's time to share my story because I don't know, I was ready to get it on paper. So I think sometimes it's for therapy, for self-therapy, and other times you're angry, and you want to tell other people because as you get older, and older meaning, I think probably by the time I was like 45 and then 50, and at 50, for whatever reason, it hits you differently.
Yeah.
And you can look at other people, especially children, and sometimes you can see that in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And you say to yourself, well, I need to do something. But can you? A lot of people can't. They just emotionally are not, for so many reasons, aren't ready to or ever tell anybody about it. But I was. So I sat down and I got it all on paper. And my memoir takes place over the span of 30 years. So the abuse started when I was 4 and ended in my mid to late teens. I would say the actual instances ended in my late teens, but it never stops. You know what I mean? It never stops in your head. So you have to learn to live with it and not have it own you. And I think I spent the rest of the time saying, how does this not own me? So it affects you not just while it's happening, because that's its own thing and that's horrible. But as soon as it's done and you're out in the real world and you don't want anybody to know because you don't want anybody to think there's something wrong with you,
Right.
you are constantly, like, your energy level is crazy because you just many reasons. So for me, it was important to show not only, hey, this abuse happens, but here's the effects of the abuse when you're 4 years old. Then when you're 10 or 12 years old, it's a little bit different. And then when you're in your teens, it's completely different then too. So
Yes, when you're 4, yours started early. I was abused by my biological father, and that started at 7. And so you're right. It does affect you in many ways. And as I was reading the book, lot of similarities is abuse or victims. And I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you said you don't like the word survivor because you don't survive it, you
Oh,
balance it.
yeah,
So explain that.
because and a lot of people say we're survivors, and there's not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't want to survive. Surviving means I'm breathing. And breathing and actually living life are two very, very different things. So sure, I physically survived it. Maybe I mentally survived it because I'm alive. But when it doesn't own you, it's like I would rather thrive and take all those horrible things that happened and use it to my advantage, if that's even possible. Just do something where it's just not constantly in your face and bringing you down. And it can.
Right. Well, I think I like the word thrive, because at some point, yes, you're a victim, then you survive that, and then you begin to thrive, and you begin to have a somewhat normal life, and do what normal people do, and have normal relationships. So you've had your share of unhealthy relationships.
I think a lot of us have that in common. Because like I said, as you're growing and you're becoming mature, and we think we're mature at, whatever age we're at, we were 16 or 18 or in our 20s, we think, hey, we're an adult, we know what's going on. And that's complete, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but that's complete bullshit.
No, it is. Yeah, you are.
All bullshit. I don't think I'm mature yet, but it takes, I don't know if you have to make a lot of mistakes. I think we all make a lot of mistakes trying to figure out how to balance this and how to be okay with it. Not that anybody should be okay with it, but once it's happened, you're kind of stuck. You can't undo it. No matter what happens, you cannot go back and undo that. You have to do something with it.
Right. And as long as we're silent, and the purpose of this summit is just to say, hey, we need to talk about these things. We need to share our stories. For one, for us to just come out from under that shroud of shame. And number two, hopefully to bring awareness that it is still happening, and to put a stop to it, or at least lessen the effects of what other children might be going through, and what we need to look for, the signs and the things like that, so to make people aware.
Yeah.
So very interesting. One of the things I read in your book about, because your stepdad would come into your room at night, and you a passage, it was something like well, you were having trouble sleeping through the night. So my question is, are you able to sleep through the night now?
Yes and no. Yes. And I go back to age, because sometimes age just beats, that's in control of you. So as of like a couple of years ago, my body at the end of the day is tired. So that's a good thing. It's the first time I was like, wow, this is kind of, I have no choice here. But I still will wake up if a leaf drops. If there's wind outside, I'm going to wake up. But I do go back to sleep. I wake up and it's, not like it was in probably up until my 30s, where, which is the first time I ever said anything anyway, but it takes time.
It really does take time. And some things, well, at least you knew that, but I wasn't able, because my abuse was kind of intermittent. I lived with my father from 7 to 12, and then I moved away, and I couldn't sleep at night. I would come home, take a nap, then I'd be up for the rest of the night doing homework, whatever. And so I was never able to sleep at night. And I ended up, I did lapse into a drug addiction, as so many of us do.
Yeah.
And thank God you didn't. But I remember we had to work at this rehab. We had to get up, we had 1 week a month. We had to wake up at 5 o'clock and cook breakfast for the other women in the house. And it was at 2 o'clock and I had to get up at 5, and I couldn't sleep, and I was praying, and I said, well, Lord, why can't I sleep? It's 2 o'clock. I got to get up in 3 hours. And it came to me that nighttime was never safe for me. So it was never safe for me. And so that was the revelation. But now I'm able to sleep, but I don't, because it's a kind of like a habit of staying up late.
I understand that. I totally understand that. People, my husband will say, why don't you sleep? And he'll think there's something, bothering him. Like, it's not. You conditioned for so many years not to sleep. It's in your system. So, and then sleeping and sleeping sound are two very, very different things.
Well, no, that's true too. But I thankfully I can sleep soundly now as well. I used to sleep, I used to wake up very easily, but I'm able to sleep soundly now. So I think as we heal, our bodies adjust and things like that. So how did you cope with the abuse through all those years? We all choose a coping mechanism. What was yours?
I was, for whatever reason, I became a workaholic and extremely independent, because in my head, all I ever wanted to do was get out of there and be able to take care of myself. So I had that goal from when I was young, and that was my weird focus. And like I said, a lot of us get wrapped up in drugs or alcohol, and it happens. And I don't even question that. For me, people ask, how did you not end up, kind of go on the path that a lot of people do? And for me, I was so terrified to lose control that I wouldn't drink. I wouldn't do anything wrong because I didn't want to lose control for fear that he would be worse than he already is. So it was a weird thing for me. And even to this day, if you try to get me to take medication or anything, I get a little weirded out. I'm like, no, I'm not taking that. And I'm like, there's no reason why. Just take an aspirin. So, we all get stuck with our things. But
yeah, we do. In the vows we make to ourselves when we're younger. I am going to be fiercely independent, and I'm not going to depend on a man for anything.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult for us to have healthy relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a negative side to that. So it's not always good,
No. I don't think it's good, but there is some good to it, because we do become self-sufficient.
You do. Yep. I think a lot of successful women probably have similar backgrounds. It's not the intention, but that's just kind of how it ends up. And
that is true. That is true.
Yep.
So your story is just so interesting, and I must interject here to my readers that this is a book you want to read. It's a wonderful, wonderful memoir, and a story of trauma and triumph. And we have Christina here as a living witness. But tell us about the successes. You ended up opening your own business. That has become hugely successful. How did that happen?
Well, when I did sit down to finally write about my life, that was probably 25 years ago when I wrote my first draft of the memoir. And when I got done, this memoir was originally 680 something pages, not 3 something where it is now, because for me, I had to get through my whole life, in order to get it on paper. So it was very sequential, and some of it was just boring. So, but that's what it took for me to get it down.
Mhm.
Once I had it on paper, and this was before self-publishing, long before any of that, then I learned that if you want to get a book published, even before you can attempt to go to a publisher, it has to be professionally edited, which that was fine, made sense. And then I found out how much it cost to edit a book, and I was dumbfounded because we didn't have, Patrick and I, my husband now, we didn't have any money. You know, we lived like everybody else, paycheck to paycheck, if you made it from paycheck to paycheck. And I didn't know what to do. So I said to him one day, I said, I need to create something where I can raise the $5,000 needed to edit my book, but yet still have a job and be able to kind of work when I need to work and kind of be my own boss. So that's how Monster Mini Golf was created. I said, hey, I think I know what I want to do. And my husband will tell you I'm a little weird. I said, I think I want to do mini golf indoors. And I think me and a friend could probably do it. He said, how are you going to build that? And who will play mini golf indoors? Nobody will. We lived in New England. So, you know, we had winter and things like that. And I said, well, I got to do it indoors because I need to make a living the whole year. I can't take a break in the winter. Yeah, I couldn't afford to. So I created this company called Monster Mini Golf. And it was in an old mill in the middle of Northeast Connecticut. And people ask all the time, why monsters? And then for me, it was a couple of reasons. The mill itself probably should have been condemned at the time. So monsters made sense. They kind of worked in there. And for me, it was kind of a personal thing where I'm just going to get all the monsters out and I'm going to make them fun. And I wanted to create something that children and people could go to that cost less than the movies and still smile and have fun and be together. So that's how Monster Mini Golf was created. And then within the year, my background is in marketing and business and retail, all that kind of normal stuff. Within the first year, it became very popular. And it was like, who's doing this? This is a weird thing. And I got scared because all the adults that would come to visit on the weekends, I would always hear, hey, this place is a gold mine. Hey, this place is a gold mine. And I was terrified that somebody who had a lot more money than us would come in and steal the idea. So I decided, and I decided like in a sentence kind of thing, because I didn't know anything about any of this. I decided, well, Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, when they wanted to get bigger, and there's New England, so Dunkin' Donuts is big there, they franchised. So why don't we just franchise this? That's as much as I knew about franchising at the time. So I got online, and the websites back then were, you know, few and far between because of it was the beginning of the web world. And I tell people I Alta Vista'd it to give you an idea of how long ago that was. So for kids, they don't even get that.
No,
not even a clue. So I think I came up with like how to franchise your business, and I had like 7 results, like total of 7. That was it. You know?
Wow.
So I called the 3 that seemed to make sense. And of the 3, one of them said, hey, you know, that sounds kind of interesting. Why don't you come out and talk to us and learn how to do franchising? So long story short, because that was kind of we didn't have the money at the time, but the long story short, that's how we started to grow. So that was almost 20 years ago. And we did franchise it, and we have 33 Monster Mini Golf locations across the country, and then in a couple in Canada. Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, so during all that time, my book sat on my desk and I didn't do anything with it. I had it edited a few times, and I would say, okay, I'm going to go get this published. And then I would just wimp out, didn't have the guts, was afraid nobody would read it, was afraid, holy cow, what do I do if the people alive read it? I just didn't know what to do. And I didn't have the courage. When the pandemic hit, we were all at home. So I picked it back up, and much older, you know, almost 20 years in with our company. And I said, you know what, I think it's time to do something. And self-publishing was really, you know, an easy way to do it. I preferred to self-publish. It's more about me getting my word out there the way I wanted it to be done. It's very, very close to what it is.
Oh, of course.
And it's sensitive. So that's when I published it. I published it May of 2021. It actually went live.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you publish your book, is that the first time you really widespread disclosed?
Yeah, it was a little terrifying. I was like, I was all excited because you get wrapped up in making sure you're getting it, on the Amazon site and all the formatting's right and your editing is all that stuff. So you get wrapped up in the project. And every once in a while I'd stop and I'd think and go, okay, this is my life. I'm going to share my life out there. And it's weird. I was okay with perfect strangers reading it. Doesn't bother me at all. Scared to death of anybody that I know reading it. And even weirder if guys read it. And you have no choice. It's got to go out there.
Right.
So
right.
it went out. And you bite your tongue and you say, okay, I'm just going to deal with it. But yeah.
What did your family think about it?
Oof. My family, I don't speak to most of them. A couple of my brothers I do talk to. But I tried to say this really nicely. Most of them have chosen to believe that I'm lying. That's the nicest, simplest way to do that. And then my older brother, for those, you read it.
Yeah.
He's still out there and he has a daughter and she is probably 30 now.
Wow. Wow.
People
Wow.
they don't want to disrupt their own lives. They don't want it in their lives. I was once told that one of my relatives, it was more important that she gets to live in her first house and I better shut my mouth because my older brother was helping them build their house. So yeah, there's a lot of, I think all of us have people that prefer not to believe the truth. If the truth doesn't work, if it's inconvenient, if it's going to hurt your lifestyle and it doesn't hurt you to believe something else, then they opt for that. Humans are weird.
Yes, I agree because I have my share. Well, why is she telling that?
Yeah.
Oh, he wouldn't have done that. He's deceased now, but he wouldn't have done that.
Yes. Yes. So that's, I have nieces who said he's not here to defend himself. So if that happened, which means that they have parents that are telling them that because that's conditioned,
Well, yeah. And but so many people, and I was one of them, where it was so important for me that my dad acknowledged his abuse, that he hurt me, that he abused me, and he wasn't willing to do that. And that led me off on a really, really destructive path.
Yeah.
And well, he was off living his life, doing his thing. But eventually I came to realize that it didn't matter because I knew the truth. I knew what had happened to me, and it was up to me to heal myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have any responsibility, or it wasn't my fault what happened to me, but as an adult, it was my responsibility to behave and operate in society.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to do that. And I had to learn how to do that, how to have relationships, how to have friendships, how to just do a lot of things that normal people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who are related to the abuser, they in their heads have a hard time understanding that they loved this person, man, or whether it's somebody's mom or dad, or so many step parents or real parents, whatever, were the abuser, and they can't come to terms with, hey, that was my dad and I loved him and he's my hero. How could he have done something so horrible? And I think that the turmoil inside them just says, I don't even want to think about how that can happen. And I'm going to choose not to believe that it did. And I know that I see that in my brother's eyes sometimes. And I'm like, God, they thought he was this amazing man. And there's no way my dad would have done that to my sister. So I understand that, but that doesn't mean you should deny it. I would like to say I understand that, and that's great. And you did love your dad. Your dad wasn't my dad in a weird way,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard. It's really hard.
It really is really hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's just, there's so many things. And when it first came out, when the book first came out, my biggest fear was dealing with my family, and you get backlash and you get, some wonderful negative reviews that are very obviously written by your family. But and it hurt at the beginning. But what happens is, while all of that's going on and they're trying to bring you down and bring you down, somebody else who read it is writing to you saying, thank you. Thank you for speaking up. I could have, I can't speak up. I'm glad somebody is, because this has to stop. Other folks have read it, and their stories that they've shared with me are so terrifying to me. And I say, oh my God, my story is nothing. How are you alive? How are you surviving, every day without just being a complete mess? So I don't care about my family. That's their problem. The people who don't want to believe me, that's 100% their problem. And what I do care about is the fact that those people are allowing these people to keep going and going and going.
right.
And then I get angry, because now it's my job to stop the next child from being abused. So
Yes, that's the insidious part. They are
Yeah.
allowed to continue.
Mhm.
But yes, your book on Amazon is doing quite well. You have over 600 reviews, and I didn't see any negative ones. I mean, because it was so many, they were just all raving reviews about, as you said, thank you for disclosing this. Very hard to read, but liberating and things like that. And it is very liberating. So thank you for that gift of sharing that with us. So what's next for you? Another book?
I know people ask another book. Wow, that's a big, that's a big project. I don't know. I don't know if my life is interesting enough for another book. I love writing. I do enjoy it. I would love to do public speaking on the subject. I would like to keep educating people and make them aware and help others. I'm at the point in my life where like you said, I am successful. I'm lucky in that respect. I'm very fortunate, where I can now step aside and let the company do what it does. Hopefully semi-retire soon, so that I have more time to focus on this subject. So that's what I would like to do. Yeah.
Well, great. So what are we to look for? You said every 9 seconds.
Every 9 minutes.
Every 9 minutes.
Yep.
That there is a case of abuse reported.
Yeah.
And as you know, you didn't report, I didn't report. So there are probably many, many others who did not report. Those are just the ones that are reported.
Yeah. I think that's the minority.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do we stop that? What do we do when we believe a child is being hurt?
Yeah, that's, that comes up on every podcast I think that I've done. I don't know if there's one answer to that. I think what you're doing, I mean, people who are writing about it, people who are doing podcasts about it, people who aren't ignoring it. So a weird thing is, I get approached by a lot of podcast people. So once in a while, I'll get a phone call for somebody who's looking to do the screenplays, all that kind of stuff. But what you hear, no matter who you're speaking to, is, this subject is, people don't want to talk about this.
Right.
I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? People like when I don't know if I could present this to somebody. Why? Because it's the first time it's ever happened. You've never heard about it.
Right.
So that makes me very angry and very determined. And I'm a very determined person. So, and we live in a world where this generation of all generations, and I give them a lot of credit for this, but sometimes they go a little too far, will speak up and want to stop everything that they think is wrong. Everything except this.
Yeah.
So they've got all the balls in the world, except when it comes to that, then we're not gonna talk about that. So somebody has to. You know,
Somebody has to,
God, and it's, I don't think it seems like it's worse, not better. Or we do have a lot more information that we hear about these days, but holy cow.
well, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out, has it always been this bad, or is it always been this bad and we just didn't hear about it? So like you said, the news outlets and things, and instant information. So I think it's probably a little bit of both, and I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I remember when I was in school back in the 50s and 60s, there was Bible in the schools, and you could talk about God and maybe, but when Madeline Murray O'Hare, when she petitioned that they took God out of the schools.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. That's not my point. My point is we were taught morals and things like that. So pedophiles and things like that were always going to be, because that's who they are. But when they stopped teaching the golden rule and ethics and morals and things like that, it just seemed to get really crazy, because just the population at large is now just doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah, we're all very disconnected for a world that's so connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just completely insane.
Yes. So somewhere we've lost our way.
Yeah.
And some of our humanity, I think, where we don't feel like we're our brother's keeper anymore. And well, I'll just be over here and I'll mind my business and let them mind their business. And sometimes, well, growing up, I grew up in a very close-knit community, and I couldn't go anywhere within my community that if I did something wrong, the news didn't beat me home. What were you doing over so-and-so's house? You know, how do you know that? But that
was out, no internet either, or phones.
Absolutely, but they found out. I don't know if they had carrier pigeons or what, but they did find out. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, I am so I want to read a passage from the last page of your book. We all know that our horrid memories will never really disappear. The best we can hope for is that they'll fade deep in the background as we learn to accept and come to terms with the fact that what happened to us was not our fault, while we try to put distance between ourselves and the situations that once controlled us. That is just so beautiful, but that's really true.
It's very true. It's not easy, but it's true. It's very true.
No. The memories never disappear. And I hear people all the time say, well, just get over it, put it behind you, let it go. And I'm saying, well, I'm trying to let it go. It won't let me go, to a certain extent. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we all have these weird things that just snap you back. And I think whether, you've been through abuse or anything that's traumatic,
right?
There are noises that I hear that to my ears are excruciating, because I go right back to where the abuse was happening, because the noise is similar. And it's a noise, things you hear every day, or somebody will see an object and same thing. And it's obviously military people have that too, but you're constantly reminded. If you want to live in the world, you could lock yourself in a room and then it's one.
Right. Or if somebody treats you a certain way and it reminds you of similar behavior.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I'll like have an intense emotional reaction to something that's really not that big of a deal in my adult life, but it's just my inner child flaring up, because that it's just I don't know, it doesn't feel right or whatever. So yes, there are triggers, and I just started this book because so many of my um guests have spoken about it, and I had heard about it. The Body Keeps the Score.
No, I've not heard of it. No.
Oh yeah, fascinating book. And you mentioned about how um trauma victims, survivors, thrivers, well, they probably haven't started thriving yet, but how abuse actually affects our bodies. It changes our physiology, and
Yeah.
it changes our brains.
Mhm.
And we have to really work hard to reprogram that and bring our bodies back to normal. So it's it's a lot of research on that. So I've
Yeah.
spent the last, since 1993, delving into my healing, and just doing my best to be better every day, heal more every day.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong thing.
Oh
A
yeah.
lifelong thing.
Yeah. I don't think you ever get to the point where, okay, I'm done with that. That's great. I'm all better. No, it's just because life just keeps happening out there. But it doesn't own me, you know.
And that's fantastic. So before we go, what would you like to leave our guests with today? Anything I haven't asked, anything I failed to mention, a word of encouragement or whatever. What would you like to leave our
I,
guests with today?
I think it's okay if you haven't told anybody or you can't talk about it. I think people think that that's wrong. Not everybody will be able to do that. Um, and those of us who can, we know that. So it's our job to, just be part of this horrible team. But everything that you're going through it's okay. That's all I want is it's okay. Just don't let it own you. I know it's so easy to say. But for me, it was like, if I let it own me, then he's won. And that's all he wanted to do was win.
Well, now you just brought another question to my mind. Do you think it's helpful to disclose? For me, it was, because I was so much steeped in shame, and it was owning me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you, as an individual, and this may not be the right decision for everybody, but do you think it is helpful to share and break that shroud of secrecy?
I do. And God, this is a tough one to say. I do think you should break the shroud, because it's just like, it's out, you feel like, oh my God. If you can. If you can't, then okay. But there are some people who take it to the other extreme and then will use it in every sentence for the rest of their lives. And then it's almost like you're hurting the rest of us, because you're using the victim card to get everything you want in life. And that actually kind of hurts the people who don't want to live like that. And it brings the whole subject down, because people, then they're turned off by it. They don't want to hear it, or the people who are lying about it, all that stuff. So it's another balance too,
Yes, there is balance, and there is balance. And what I get a little bit, well, not a little bit, what I get angry about are the false allegations of sometimes
They're the worst.
vindictive spouses
Yes.
in a custody battle. They'll
That's a
say
bad
that.
person. That's a
Yeah.
really bad person, for so many reasons. That's a bad person. Yeah.
And seeing that minimizes it seems to trivialize what true people go through. And then it's like, well, the children who are really going through that, it makes them less likely to be believed.
Absolutely.
So that's the insidious part of that. Like you said, the people who go around always playing the victim,
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, and when I was in treatment and anytime I tried to play the victim, the program director would say, yeah, that's horrible what happened to you, but you're responsible for the
That's right.
rest for the
That's
rest
right.
of your life. So
That's
get
right.
on with living it.
Yep.
And I thought it was really cruel at the time, but it was so true. And it helped me grow into the person that I am.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, was it terrible? Yes. But
Yeah.
I am responsible now for what my life is like. And that made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because we all grew up, you're mad at somebody for being honest with you and being like horribly honest with you. And it sticks with you. And I find now that I'm older, now I'm the old person telling somebody that. So I'll tell them, I'll say, look, I'm going to tell you this and it's going to be hurtful. I'm going to tell you, but 20 years from now, you're not going to be mad at me anymore for this. You're going to be mad at me now. And I'm okay with that. But 20 years, you're going to go, because we all did, but
Yeah, we all did.
yeah.
So you have a very generous offer for our guests.
I do. Anybody who would like to purchase the book, you can buy it direct from me on my website, and that's 123 Christina V. And I think Peggy will probably share that information at some point.
I will.
If you get on the website and you use the word Peggy, which is really simple, you get the book at half price, and it's $14.99 in paperback. And I ship for free everywhere in the world. I pay for the shipping.
Oh, well, now that is super generous. 50% off and free shipping. Oh, my goodness. So that is super, super generous. And I want to encourage everybody to flood the website 123 Christina V and get this book because it is such an excellent read. And she says it started out at about 800 pages.
That
So
was a lot.
it's still quite a few. It's in over 350, 360,
Yep.
something like that. But it is such a great read. And it's like one of those books you just can't wait to get to the end of it. And I just loved it. And I am so appreciative of you coming here to share your story and the freedom that you have found by sharing your story and the success that you have in life to give other survivors, balancers,
Thank you.
hope that we can survive the trauma and we can thrive beyond. So thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you.
And I'll be reaching out to you.
Thanks.
Okay.
It's on Amazon as well and Kindle. So if that's an easier way, if somebody's interested, because a lot of people have Kindle Unlimited where it's free. So it is there.
Yes, but if you like a book like I do, I happen to get it on Kindle only because I don't have Kindle Unlimited, so I did buy it, but I didn't want to wait for the hard copy because I wanted to start reading it right away. But I probably will take you up on that 50% offer because even though I buy Audibles, I am just old school and I love the paper, but I don't have I'm kind of vision impaired right now, so I do listen, but I like that hard copy sometimes to make notes. So I can't wait.
I'll send you a hard copy.
Well, I will receive that blessing, Christina. I'm going to send you my address.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I wasn't fishing for that, but I will receive that blessing. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today, and thank you.
Bye.